What did you have for breakfast?
It was kind of stuck. I'm all nervous now. No, it was steamed, sort of stewed peppers in tomatoes with poached eggs and then sort of paprika stuff. It was amazing. Fresh bread.
That sounds like the best thing
It was
anyone's
amazing.
eaten at all Fringe.
It was amazing. Yeah, so I'm going to try and get. I was talking to her last night. I'm going to try and get her to somehow come up and do like a pop-up vegetarian food thing. Really healthy, good food. Cause that's what I always just eat crap when I'm here. It'd be nice if you actually knew somebody you could go to get really decent big portions of nice healthy food.
Hello, my name's Simon Caine, and welcome to the Ask Your Industry podcast, episode 31. For those of you new to the show, this is the podcast where I interview the most influential people from the world of stand-up, comedy, radio, TV, and today, the live circuit. Darrell Martin is the founder and main operator of the chain of clubs known as Just The Tonic. He also operates at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and at the Leicester Comedy Festival and a couple of others. And I got him on to talk about how the festivals operate, how his clubs operate, how the progression ladders work, all that usual stuff that you can come to know and love from this podcast. I'm not going to say too much more. I'm going to keep this very, very brief. If you are enjoying the show, please do rate it in iTunes. We're up to 34 reviews. I'd love to get it over 40. Please take 1 minute, just give it a star rating or an honest review if you have time. Also, if you have a little bit of spare change, please do donate. This show runs on donations, so if you have a couple of quid spare, you can do that via PayPal on the website, or you can become a patron. Patrons basically pledge to donate a certain amount per episode, and then they get charged at the end of the month. The minimum you can give is $1. That's about 80p. So if you can spare 80p for 1.5 hours worth of content every 10 days, that'd be amazing. It will cost you about £2.40 in total each month. It's not that much, and it really, really does help keep the project going. I think we need 49 more $1 pledges to get us to the next target of that. So if you can do that, that'd be great. If you can donate more than $1, that's even better. I'm not going to cap you at that amount. Go nuts. That'd be great. Also, there's loads of perks for patrons, like emails ahead of time and emails ahead of time and reserved seats at live pods and all kinds of stuff like that. So please do consider doing that. Finally, please do share this podcast with anyone you think will enjoy it. So most of the listens for these episodes come from shares. If you feel like you know a comedian who would benefit from it, either they're going to the Fringe, the Edinburgh Fringe that is, or the Leicester Comedy Festival, or they're going to head to, they're going to try and get in with the, they're going to try and get in with the chain of clubs that is known as Just The Tonic. This will probably really help them. So please do pass it on. It keeps the goodwill going, it keeps the circuit talking, and it's great. So that'd be amazing. Without any more delays, this is Darrell Martin. Starting a vegan restaurant next year, I think that's important for...
Yeah, I won't be starting one. I'll just go to someone in the kitchen if I can get one. Are we started?
Yeah, I've just hit record. It's getting edited down, by the way.
Okay,
it's not just every word you say.
Okay.
Well, I was going to... Because the thing is, I did some Googling on you.
Oh, yeah.
And I found out something, and I wondered if it was true, and I thought we could start here. So I read that you started Just The Tonic when you said you were quote unquote utterly unemployable.
Yes.
And you found a gap in the market for a comedy club in Nottingham.
Yeah. Well, I left university in 91, I think, or 92. I was long-haired, smoking, drinking, raving Wally, basically, and I'm not going to get a proper job. And then after a few years, think I really need a proper job. And but I'd been into comedy, and I'd moved to Nottingham. Long story, theatre company didn't work, stuck there, and there was someone doing a comedy club there. But every time I found it, it was quite ad hoc. Every time I found it, it's kind of shut down and moved on somewhere else. And so I just decided to start one, and that's kind of what happened. It is a longer story if you want me to go into it in detail, but it's quite dull.
I think that's enough. Well, I was only asking because you said you were in comedy before you started the club.
No, I was into comedy. I used to watch it, and I sort of, I'm from the generation when the young ones were our thing at school, and you go in and do impressions of all your mates and things like that. And I was also into Spike Milligan and Monty Python, and when I was 17 or 18, I organised a coach load of people to go to see Ben Elton at the Apollo, I suppose it is, and I was always hunting out for it, and then when I was at university in Birmingham, I was the only person to go to a comedy night, so I got off my own to I think it was I can't remember what it was. It was somewhere, but I started going there just after Frank Skinner had left his regular hosting, and Alan Davis was the new host. He was really new then, and I can remember. I think the first time I saw him, I was amazed at how funny he was. And then I went off to go down to the toilet, and he was in the hallway. And he was ticking off his list of material, and I was so disappointed because I just thought he'd just made it all up. And I saw that he'd obviously practiced. I was like, no. But I was just into it. And then once I'd started promoting the club, it was the first time I'd found anything that I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed doing it, you know. So I've just found something I loved, and so I just clung onto it. And I'd wanted to do stand up. I never had the bottle to do it. It's not one of those things that when you're sort of and you're a kid from a real piss-taking sort of working-class background to say to your friends, I want to be a stand-up comedian, you just get the piss ripped out of you. And so I would never have done that. And there was no career path of it then. It wasn't a thing you thought you could do. So it's like now, I should think it's so big now, you go, I could be a stand-up comedian. But it didn't seem even, how'd you get into that? And it took me years to even get the bottle to get on the stage once I started the club, even though I knew the avenues to actually get the confidence to go and do a gig. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified, to be honest. So I ran a club, and now I've kind of been painting myself in the corner of being a promoter, even though I really wanted to do stand up. I confess to everyone, I did just want to do stand up.
Well, you did quite well because I read in 1997 you got to the final of a competition, the Telegraph competition or something. Yeah. I did well. I did all right in the competition, but Paul Foot was like the king of our year, and I got through to the final, and there's that final was one thing that I regret. I took advice of someone that I regret taking, because I was going to go on and I was going to ask the question who judges the judges, and I was going to go Carolina Hearn, great characterisation, 8 out of 10. I can't remember the bloke's name. Charles Foot, who writes for the Telegraph. I think it was Charles Foot. Something like a 7 out of 10. There was someone else there, I can't remember who it was. 9 out of 10. Gary Bushell, what a cunt. And that's basically how I wanted to open my set. And I think it would have been an amazing thing to have done, and I wouldn't have won, but I didn't think I was going to win anyway. But it would have been an amazing thing to have done, and someone advised me not to do it, and I kind of really regret that. But yeah, I got through to the final of that. I toured with Johnny Vegas, toured with Ed Byrne, but I think that was more to do with the fact that I could drive a car. And I was able to be a good mate and have a good laugh. And which is quite important if you're a support act and tour manager. The ability to have fun is quite important. Yeah, there's I wouldn't say a rumour, but there's because I sort of chatted to Jeff Whiting about this, because there's sort of a misconception on his gigs that you get a lot of open spots if you can drive, and it's interesting. I mean, I suppose back then there were less people, and so if you could drive and you could perform and you were a laugh, you probably got even more gigs than you might have done now. I think for Jeff to say it's misconception is utterly wrong. Anyway, okay. for his gigs, because that just seems the way. Anyway, why'd you say that? Well, because everyone knows that if you can drive, you get gigs with Jeff White, and everyone knows it's true. Anyway, no, if I'm booking now and I'm doing gigs, there's sometimes, because I book stuff in Nottingham and Leicester, if someone's got a car, then they're more likely to get a gig, and that's just not. If they're not someone I'd want to book, then I wouldn't book them even if they've got a car or not. But if they've got a car and you go, we need a driver, so you kind of have this list of people you know are drivers, so you will take priority. And I can't believe that there's people as adults whose job can take them all around the country and they haven't got a car. I find it unbelievable. There's people that are 60 years old. You got a car yet? No. They're waiting for lifts and trains. I can't fathom it. So anyway, So when I said about getting a lift with Johnny Vegas on tour, he'd had a tour manager the year before, and he didn't get on with him very well, and I was good mates with him, and he liked me, so I kind of got the gig. But it was because I was able to drive him around. It saved the tour promoter two wages, basically, so I could drive and I could support act and tour manage. So I was kind of I was a bargain, basically. That's when slightly want to pick you up on something before we go to the Johnny Vegas route. For me, as a performer, I tend to keep the fact that I can drive quite quiet, because I sort of like the idea of being booked on merit. But it sounds like it might be more of an asset for me to say to promoters, I'm funny and I can drive, not just... Yeah, you are going about it completely the wrong way. Tell me more.
Well,
Do I have a car?
Yeah, you've got a car. Let everyone know you can drive, because no one's going to book you if they think, unless they're a terrible promoter, book you just because you've got a car. But it means you're more likely to get a 10-minute spot to be seen or something like that. It's just easier, and it's not people being horrible. It's just there's gigs that you can't get back from. Sometimes get back to London at 10:30 because the trains don't run. So if you've got someone doing a 10 minutes that you can all share the petrol with. And also you'll get to know more comedians because you'll be in the car sharing a journey with them. They tell the promoters about you. You know, the car journeys are quite an important bonding thing. And also, yeah, you'll see, do whatever you can to get gigs. Whatever you can do to get gigs. Don't worry if you think you're being booked just because you got a car. Just get the gigs, get the stage time.
Well, no, it's not. I suppose it's an. I don't want to say an integrity thing, but it's also like a worry that I'll only get booked because I have a car, that I sort of didn't mention it, and I don't mention it for many promoters. I mean, like promoters I know and I've gigged for a little bit now. So like the ones for the last year and a half that sort of regularly book me. They know I can drive, but they knew I was funny, so it's okay for me to tell them, kind of thing, because I feel like I've earned that. But I suppose
I understand what you're saying, but
it's wrong.
but you might as well get your foot in the door and get yourself the gig, because there's get yourself a foot in the door. If you're shit, they won't book you back. It'd be as simple as that. But if they're hunting for someone and you happen to go, oh, that bloke's got a car, they won't book you just because you got the car. But there's no harm in letting them get yourself up a little peg or two in doing that. Honestly, I'm not. There's no harm in it, really.
So in terms of getting open spots with you, it's actually, or Just The Tonic even, it's advantageous to mention that you have a car and you can drive.
Yeah, our open spot thing is done through, because at the minute my club is a Saturday night in Nottingham. It's not really a very good place for them to be open spots, to be honest. It can be detrimental to them because the audience is a Saturday night crowd, and it can be very difficult for the club to pick up again after if an open spot's been sort of on damaging. So what we tend to do is we see people through our big value auditions, and Joe does those, and we have them on a Thursday night. And what we try and do is get, we have a Thursday night, and we'll try and get people to come from, like a group of people to come from one area with one driver, so they can all share a lift. And so we see loads of people every week. And if you want to do the big value, and you say to Joe, yeah, I'm based in Manchester and I've got a car, you're right, we'll make sure we can get you in when there's 3 people on, you're giving people a lift down. So it's not, you're kind of helping everybody out, really. So
no, that makes sense. And I mean, from my perspective, it's because just trying to think of how to ask this now. You sort of throw me.
Are you going to say, can I have a gig?
No, there's no point, is there? Not in this situation. We're in a cave at the moment in the middle of Edinburgh. So in terms of progression ladder then for Just The Tonic, I mean, obviously it starts with open spots and moves forward. But in my head, and this might be different because you're the promoter, I'm the comedian. But in my head, the way that it works is like radio play. So like if you get on the radio play list, you get played quite often. But if you don't get on that list, you're never going to get a gig.
What happens? And I don't think I'm sort of unique in doing this. You have a lot of people that you book, and it's just out of habit you book them again. And every now and then someone go, you haven't booked so and so, and I go, oh shit, yeah, I've seen them. I just didn't think about it, or I haven't booked them for ages, and it's through no lack of wanting to book someone. It's just kind of they've either slipped by, or you've got people you book anyway, and you kind of that gets added to. And there's loads of people I don't book, and I should book, and I would like to book, but I just either haven't seen them, or they're not in my contact list, or they don't hassle me for gigs because they assume I'm not going to book them, I suppose. People email and I go, yeah, I'm not booking now, and I'm quite sporadic. I kind of always go to people, oh, ring me next Thursday or ring me Tuesday. I don't do it because I'm all over the place, and I sit down and go, right, I'm going to do a booking binge now. I'll get loads out of the way, and if you happen to ring me then, I'll go, all right, yeah, you can have a go. And that's kind of, it's not as scientific as as I don't think the Comedy Store probably got the same policy, but
I mean, obviously, there's no science behind booking, really. I mean, it's if you're I'd say there's no science, but there's logic behind it. So if you're McIntyre and their agent rings you up, you're most likely to find it because he'll put bums on seats. But it's like if you're a jobbing comic that doesn't really have a TV profile or anything like that, I suppose it comes down to luck and timing then with you.
If I see someone and I think they're brilliant, even if no one else thinks they're brilliant, I'll book them because I want them to give them some work because I think they're brilliant. And sometimes as performers that you just need one person to champion you and believe in you, and you'll keep going. If everyone just ignores you, then there's sort of and I know there's been quirky acts over the time that no one else sort of not really interested, and I will book them regardless of how they're doing, and even if they die on their arse, I'll book them again, because I go, well, I took the gamble, and I think I can see something there. It doesn't always work, but but I like to think that I still do that, but I don't see as many people now as I used to, because I used to go around the country doing gigs, and I used to comp at my club a lot more, but because I've got kids now, and I kind of, you know, sort of things take over a bit, and I want to give people a go that are doing it properly. You know, I don't want to be a club every Saturday night. So, yeah, I think with me, I have loads of people that I book, that I continue to book and always have booked, and then I just inject new people every now and then, just through no real reason or anything. You
were talking about for me. Especially since starting this podcast, the most interesting thing for me about promoters is they do champion acts. I chatted to Alfie Nooks, who runs the We Are Funny project, and when he was telling me about like the different performers he champions and always pushes forwards and continuously books, or they could even turn up sometimes, and if they've got a spot, they'll just put them on. For me, that's really interesting, because I thought it would be more, should we say, business orientated, where you'd want to keep the rotation of acts a certain, you know, like with Jeff, for example, I don't think they champion acts in the same way, because they have things on it that says, you know, don't do this gig if you've done it in the last 12 months. They sort of have to make the rotation work. But it sounds like, because you're, I don't want to say more indie, but you are independent from the venues maybe that you're dealing with, unlike what he's doing, you have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, I kind of do what I want, really. But if I book for a few external people. So this might be where you're cool. Right. So I think what you're talking about is that if you're booking for venues that it's not your night. So I book for Loughborough Town Hall, or I book for a student union or something. I have to be sure that what I'm putting in isn't gonna. I have to be confident that there's gonna be no sort of weak bits in it. So you kind of really booking trusted acts. They're probably gonna not want the same person every now and then. So you do kind of tend to be a bit more, I suppose, what you're thinking, business orientated. But if it's a venue of my own, like a book for Leicester, or a book for Nottingham, or some little gigs that I want to do, or anything in Edinburgh that I'm doing, then I will try to put in people that are a bit more varied, and I will take risk with people, because it's my risk. You know, it's my door take, and if they die on their arse, it's me going, well, I booked that. You know, same as I'll book myself to compare in my own gigs. And I find it very difficult to book myself to compare in the gigs I'm booking for, because you've got two heads on. If I die, it's embarrassing for everyone, but also they're going to go, well, can't use him again because he's booked himself and he's shit. And, you know, and that everyone's shit sometimes. You know, it doesn't matter how good you are. Everyone has a duff gig, and I don't want to do that when I've booked myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm booking for someone else, I'll be a bit more stringent. But I think I do. Once I think someone's funny, I'll kind of believe in them, and I'll book them I won't make people go, oh, you've got to do 5, then you've got to do 10. If I see them and they do 10 minutes, I go, you can come do 20, because you can tell if someone's got it or not, really. And if you then just let them do 20s, and the best comedians, I think, are the ones where I've just gone, like the compares, when I have a decent compare, like Eric Lampere is probably the most recent example. I just go, do what you want, Eric. Just go and piss about and have a good time, and you just get the best out of someone, because they know that you're going to book them again regardless, and also they've been given free rein to do whatever they want. And that's when I think a great comic, a good comic, can be a great comic, because they can just fuck about without any pressure. So I won't be sitting looking at the clock going, he's only supposed to do 10 minutes before we brought him on. If that compare is having a really good moment, they can do 15 or 20 minutes. They can make the gig. And I think Eric only realised that when he sort of came off of a gig with us one time. He had a shit gig, basically, and he went, oh, sorry about that. And I went, don't worry about it. Shit gig, you're funny. He went, oh, you can still book me. And I went, of course I would, without question, you know, because if you're going to have someone who fucks about or is creative, then they're not going to be 100%, you know. But you have got acts, and nothing wrong with them, that just will do the same 20 minutes over and over again. I actually get bored of it, and so I'm less likely to book it, because I'm comparing. I don't want to sit through that again. So it kind of there's a lot of personal. You know, I want to book a gig that I want to sit in, really. Anyway, did I answer the question? I'm not too sure.
You answered quite a few questions
right.
there. Yeah. I get what you mean, because when I was doing my previews in London, just before Edinburgh, I gave myself license in parts of it to buck around and to try ideas in the middle of the show, obviously not the start or the end or whatever, just to see how it went. And it's one of those things where they're now my favourite parts of that show because I wouldn't have, if I'd sat down and written it in the way you write a joke, it wouldn't have come out.
It doesn't always work, does it?
No. I needed to work with the audience to come up with why that was funny for me and why I think that would be funny for them. And I get what you mean by like letting someone have, especially in front of a paying professional audience, because they're so much more committed than, for example, when I'm doing free previews, that they're going to give you more and you're going to learn more, and hopefully they're going to be funnier.
I think I follow what you're saying. Yeah.
I might be doing that wrong as well.
No. It's just because I was actually just thinking about myself, to be honest. Because what I just said there about letting Eric have free reign. When I was running around trying to do comparing, I used to go to some gigs, and I'd compare and I'd just fuck about, and I'm quite good at just fucking about and having a good laugh. It doesn't always work, and but generally, so I'd say 70-80% of the time, I was good enough to get away with it. And there's the amount of times promoters have gone, all you did was fuck about, you didn't do jokes. Going, yeah, but it was funny though, wasn't it? The gig was worked. I was funny though, wasn't it? Yeah, but you haven't got any material. And I know, because I like compares that don't do material. I like compares that just make some magic happen. Go and make something happen that's magic. Save your material for 20 minutes. Something. Just go and do something that's never going to happen again. And I sort of try. I'm not the best at doing it, but I can just fuck about with the crowd, do. And I wouldn't get booked back. And you go, I wish someone would just go, oh, he's good at fucking about, we'll book him back. But it didn't happen. I booked myself, and I'm the only person that booked me.
No, I know what you mean. Where I get booked very sporadically for MC spots, and I try and never do material, just because it feels really artificial, and it feels really like I'm disconnected from the audience. And I think as an MC, you're the one that needs to connect most because you keep going back. Do you know what I mean? And like when you go up and you get to make a moment, I think that's my favourite type of comedy in general, not just MCs, just ones that make a moment.
Yeah, something that you just go, well, you just something's happened, because the way it's built to it, that couldn't have happened.
Yeah.
That wasn't prepared. There's no way it's prepared, but it was very silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the worst thing about doing that, is if you are shit in the first bit and you've got to go on 2 or 3 times afterwards.
Yeah.
That is horrible, because they're thinking, oh God, here comes that dick again. Here he comes.
Yeah, I've had that.
I've had it too many times.
So I'll just give you a minute to stare off into space and reminisce. But yeah, like you were saying, I mean, you went on tour with Johnny Vegas, and you were starting to build yourself as a comedian. And would you still say you are a comedian, or would you say that because your Wikipedia says you're a comedian in your own right, but you've just said that you're a
am I on Wikipedia?
You are on Wikipedia.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yay! I'm doing a little dance now.
I might have made that page for you.
Bloody, I never knew I was on Wikipedia. Oh, my children will be proud. Are you sure that's not the Darrell Martin that's an American DJ?
No, I'm sure, because well, if it was,
you can tell I've googled myself there.
Well, I did just bring up about radio play and stuff. It might have been the wrong guy. But no, I know you're on. There's a Just The Tonic page.
Oh right.
And down that there's a bit about you.
It's not just a Darrell Martin Wikipedia. Oh.
Sorry, you've got to be better. Keep going.
Yeah,
Come on, you'll get there.
I could just start with myself. I think I gave up trying to do gigs. I think I was banging away at the door of agents and bookers and stuff. And I'd say I gave up trying to gig when I did a gig. I went down to do a Bound and Gag gig when I was doing stuff in North London still. They were still running gigs, not just promoting and touring. And I arrived thinking I was comparing a normal gig. And when I arrived there, it changed into being a normal gig, into being a warm-up for the first series of Live at the Apollo. And it was Omid Djalali and... Irish. Father Ted.
Oh.
Ardlo Hanlon, Omid Djalali. And not only that, it was Off the Curb crew in there, because they're a production team, all the open mic lot. Addison Cresswell, most powerful booker and agent, died now, but at the time was, I absolutely shat myself, honestly just shat myself, because every time I'd done a big gig, like gone to the Comedy Store or gone to Jongleurs and tried to, I got so nervous I couldn't talk properly. I talk really fast like that. And I thought, I can't blow this out. I can't blow this. This is a big gig. I've got Omid Djalali and Ardlo Hunt. And I walked up and down the high street, Parsons Green, I think it was, walking up and down, and I got on and I did a really good. If I was shit, I don't know. I'll just say I was shit. Did a really good gig. I fucked about the audience. Got some bloke on stage. Took the piss out of him. And at the end of the gig, Addison Cresswell came up to me and goes, all right, fucking hell, mate, you're funny. You remind me of, he told me I remind me of Sean Locke, so I sound like Sean Locke. Yeah, I've heard it before. And he just started telling me that I was funny, he'd give me gigs, he'd do this, he'd do that. And I went, okay, yeah. I said, well, if I ring up Danny, who was the book at the time, he won't give me a gig. And he went, he will. You tell him Addison says to give him a gig. So I rang up the Monday morning with great pleasure, rang up Danny, who I think had only seen me die on my arse at the Hackney Empire final when I was in that year of doing the competitions, like everyone does when they start. And so he'd seen me like 4 or 5 years before, and I was like, all right, Danny, all right, Darrell. I was going, yeah, your boss isn't Mr. Cresswell. He says that you got to give me some gigs. He went, fuck off, Darrell. I went, no, go and put the phone down and go to the back office and ask him. So he comes back, rings back to me, all right, mate. And he gave me 1 gig, and I went there, and it wasn't brilliant. And then I don't know what happened now. I spoke to him since then. He says, you didn't chase it up. We didn't follow it up. But I didn't feel like I could get any more with them. It just come to an end, and I just thought, I can't be bothered with this anymore. I can't keep trying to sell myself. I can remember driving down to Bristol from Nottingham, going to this club that's run by some bloke. He's not a very popular promoter. And I stood there doing 5 or 10 minutes, and there was honestly 5 or 6 people in the audience. So as far as I'm concerned, he hadn't done his job as promoter. I'd driven miles to go and do this thing. I didn't stand. I wasn't making anyone laugh. There's 5 or 6 people in there. It was like I was quite new. And I come off, and he'd been playing the fruit machine all the way through. I looked up here. I went, hey mate, what was that like? He just looked at me. He went, it was all right. And I went, do I get another gig off that? Like, do I get a paid 5 or paid 10? He went, look, to be honest, mate, the only people I book here are people that play the Jongleurs or the Comedy Store. And I went, well, what the fucking hell's the point of me driving 150 miles to come here? I said, where's your opinion and taste in this? What a waste of my fucking time. And I didn't bother booking out. But I kept on getting these things where I just kind of just banging my head against the wall. And when I got brought up to do Big Value by Pete Harris in 1999, which is where my Edinburgh stuff started really, he was someone that had seen me compare, and he could see that I had potential. I was raw, and I spoke to him since then. He said I was really raw. He said, but he could see something there that could be brought out, and he sort of believed in me. And then I did that Big Value with him, and he jacked it all in after that. And he was the bloke that kind of had managed Ezzy Izzard before he was famous, and kind of taken him up. And he had quite a few people in his stable at one point, and he was brilliant. And he's come back. He's involved in comedy again, but he was one person that probably would have championed me, but he jacked it all in and moved to Thailand. And I was like. And so what happened is I had a couple of kids with from a previous nightmare, and it was very difficult to be driving around the country and promoting and doing everything. So the comedy sort of dwindled out really, and I just focused on promoting. But I still love doing it. I still love getting on the stage and comping, and I still keep convincing myself that I'm going to write an hour show. Still convincing myself I'm going to write material. And every time I turn up a Saturday night, I go, oh shit, I haven't thought about this again. And I go on and go, all right, where are you from? What's your name? Yeah. Take the piss out of that job. Take the piss out of that job. And I can't. My comparing is really just taking the piss out of comparing. I kind of ham up. I basically tell the audience how I'm going to compare it. And then I go through what I've just told them I'm going to do. It's a little cheeky technique, and that's basically what I do every week now when I compare. It's funny. I get away with it. So. Sorry.
You said like that you didn't follow it up, so therefore they didn't book you again.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, I think, in my mind, I remember it being that they went, no, not getting more gigs. But when I spoke to Danny afterwards, he went, no, you just did one, you didn't try to get any more. And I was like, I'm sure I wouldn't have left it at that, but different memories, I don't know what really happened, because it was years ago, and I might have just gone, I can't bother anymore. But I felt like I was kind of getting somewhere, and then it kind of, I think I got distracted because I went for a bit. I had quite a horrible, very hard work relationship with the mother of my children at the time. It wasn't the best place to be, and it was very difficult me going off gigs, and there was spanners put in the works all the time, and I kind of, a few reasons I kind of just sort of backed off from doing stand-up, and I kind of regret that, because I think I might have been quite good, but having worked with people like Johnny Vegas, Ross Noble, and seeing people like Jimmy Carr, and the kind of commitment that they put into it, and the time and the effort. There is no overnight success. People, they work their arse off to do it, and I never really. I think I'm a little bit too lazy. So when you work with people that are great, then you know what it takes to be great. And I didn't really want to be, to be honest, I didn't really want to be someone that was at 50 years old driving around, spending weekends in jongleurs clubs up around the country just to pay the mortgage. I didn't want that. I'd find it depressing. There was a couple of times I'd have weekend gigs, and I'd actually get depressed in this shitty town that I didn't want to be in, didn't know anyone. I was thinking, what am I doing here? So I think the reality of being a stand-up comedian on the circuit isn't what you imagine. I think you have a dream of what being a stand-up is, and you think it's all laughs and stuff. It's actually I think it's quite unsocial and quite lonely, and I didn't really want that. And so there was a mixture of me kind of kept banging my head against the wall, realising I wasn't going to get beyond that, and the fact that I was quite a good promoter. And so I just sort of, for a variety of reasons, I stopped. But I kind of wish I had tried a little bit harder at doing stand-up, I think, rather than sort of bailing out. A little regret there. There we go.
I have a few friends who tell me they want to be full-time stand-ups, and I know what you mean by the reality not living up to the expectation. Because whenever we do like a car journey together, you know, they're the kind of people that every, you know, stop need to get out and rest their legs, or every like 20 minutes are like, oh, are we there yet? You know, they're just not enjoying any part of any of that, and it's mostly driving. Like it's mostly getting to the place or whatever. And I just find it really interesting. I find it interesting what you said, where you said I was just a bit lazy, so I thought I'd be a promoter, essentially. And it's like
that wasn't what it was. It is that I think I didn't have the confidence in my stand-up to commit enough time to doing stand-up, because I thought I'd always be just a run of the chance I might be just a run-of-the-mill stand-up, whereas I thought I knew I was good at promoting, and it was I suppose in a way it was less, I was exposing myself less by being a promoter. Because if you go on stage and you're a bit of a crap comedian, I didn't want to be one of those lunatic crap comedians that thinks they're great and everyone else just thinks they're shit. I didn't want to be one of them people, and I think it was a little bit of kind of like, well, if I don't actually really try that hard, then if I don't try really hard, then I haven't really failed. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying. So you sort of let the imposter syndrome take over a bit.
Yeah. I suppose I just sort of don't belong here. I'm not as good as these people. But the other thing is that I was very happy running a good club. You know, so it wasn't like I was involved in industry I wanted to be in. I was meeting great people, doing gigs, comparing, and I was quite happy with that. You know, so it wasn't like I was sitting at a desk job dreaming of gigs and people laughing and stuff. I was kind of involved in a world that I enjoy doing. Like, you know, I'm up here at Edinburgh. I've got 14 spaces, loads of shows on. We've had a really good month, and I'm sort of, you know, not grumbling. I'm quite happy with it, really, to be honest. So I don't feel like, you know, I'm not sort of full of woes and regrets, but, you know,
everyone has a regret or two.
Yeah, no, yeah. Anyway, I think this is turning into a psychoanalysis, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I have one quick question before we move on to Edinburgh, because you just started talking about that. Like you said, you didn't really follow it up, and therefore they didn't give you extra spots. For me as a performer, if I've done a gig and it's gone all right or not as well as I'd hoped, or, you know what I mean? Because like you said, you know, I think we're always our own worst critic when we perform. Like, you know, we don't know the value of what we've done to people who, you know, see maybe one gig a week or whatever, who've done it 7 times, and we know it went amazing or exactly the way we wanted it to go. They might have really loved it, but it just didn't go the way we wanted it to go. So is it a case of still chase up with you regardless of, do you know what I mean? Like, even if I think my gig's gone, I mean, obviously not if we all know it's gone shit, but like if it's gone not as well as I wanted it to, but they've still been laughing, should you still chase up with you for spots, or is it a case of do you not get annoyed with people like all constantly saying, can I have a spot?
No, I don't. Hang on. I suppose I don't get loads of people ringing up my mobile anymore. I think people email me, so it's not as annoying as it was once. And I don't. You know, I think people go through Joe now for gigs because he's doing the big value stuff. So I'm not sort of batting off people anymore. But if I'm at a gig, and if I'm there and someone's has come off stage and they've made people laugh, and I don't think they've done very well. And I'm trying to work out what exactly you're trying to ask me.
Well, I'm trying to say, because some promoters dislike it when comedians keep asking for spots and keep chasing up stuff, whereas other promoters, like you said, your system means that if they're not in your mind, you won't book them. So is it a case of it's worth just doing?
I know it's definitely worth reminding
that you exist.
Yeah, and it definitely is. You know, there's no harm in sort of going, I'm here still, just because you might luckily get us when we're doing bookings and stuff. If it obviously stinks, then just, you know, I'd always let someone come back and have another go. I'd never judge someone on one gig. I wouldn't, because I know what it's like performing. I think it'd be very unfair if I just saw someone stink and then go, well, I've never seen them again. You know, and also people change in a year, 2 years, 3 years. You can have someone that's trying out 1 year and they don't really find their voice, so there's something that clicks a year later and they're amazing. You know, so it's very unfair to write someone off. On a one gig. So, you know, you do need to keep. You just need to sort of balance reminding and being pushy. You know, just don't. If you're just nagging someone, you would. There are a few people I've just gone. It's 11 o'clock at night, and you just fuck off. Stop ringing my phone. I won't say it was, but he knows if he's listening to this. And it kind of puts you off. It does, because it's annoying. But there's no harm in sort of, you know, oh, I'm here. Can you give us a gig?
Yeah. Okay. And like you said, we're in Edinburgh at the moment, and you've got 14 spaces in Edinburgh, and you've been here for how many years now? You've been doing about a decade, don't you?
It sort of depends what level you mean. Cause I started off flyering for Avalon and teching for Sean Locke in the Comedy Zone in '96, I think it was, or '95. So I've been up here in various guises, and hello bar staff, and
they all get that.
So I was up doing that, and then I think the following year I worked for Marlena's Wickler with Rich Hall and Jim Owen, and then might not have come up the next year, and then I came up in '99, Compare and Big Value, brought up by Pete Harris, and then it didn't come up the following year, I don't think. And then I was asked to run Big Value because Pete Harris had left. Then a couple of years later I was running the venue, and then that venue shut and I went somewhere else, and just through a series of unplanned progressions it kind of expands into what it is. And nothing's been planned at all. It's just sort of, it's grown, I think, just through, I don't know how.
Okay.
Hard work, I think. Getting a few things right.
Well, very quickly ask you the sidebar question to do with that. You this year took on a lot of acts very last minute for Freestival, including myself, because there was a bit of a issue with that. I don't want to go into it again. But yeah, and given your booking policy of trying out, with your own stuff, trying out people and not, not being as business orientated as it were. I mean, I assume, was that quite a linear move for you because you had do you have extra space, or was it like quite hard?
Well, when what happened, I'd got myself in a pickle similar to the Freestival people did a few years ago. I won't go into that; it's a tedious story. But I'd got myself in a pickle, and a few people rallied round and helped me out in the end. And then what happened with the situation you were in is the room we're in now, which is in part of the caves. The owner was going to do some work on it and turn it into a whiskey drinking venue, and so he'd said that we couldn't have this part of the caves. And then he changed his mind around about 2 days after the Fringe deadline closed. So two of the spaces that I would normally have used were not used by us. And then when all that thing kicked off with the Freestival sort of shows being booted out, I rung up the Freestival people and said I might be able to help you if I can get my venue back, but you're gonna have to pay some more money, and then I don't want to be part of this free stuff, whereas there's no ushers, there's no tech support, there's no nothing, and it's a nightmare because as good as the free Fringe thing is, and it's theoretically, there's a lot of faults with it. Mainly there's no management, there's no investment in it, so nothing's ever done properly, I don't think, and it's chaos. And it's all right if you've got one room in the back of a pub, but when you've got 3 or 4 rooms working together, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for the public, nightmare for the performers. And so I kind of said, look, I've got to usher this. So I've sort of, I said, it's all dependent on whether I can negotiate sort of the venue, paying a bit less than I would normally would. So I kind of managed to work it around, and I think the Freestival people did email out going, I don't know how they did it, but I just said, look, you can, whatever shows that you think around about, try and get shows that are around about the same time as it would have been in your programme, so it's not too much of a change for people. And I definitely want Let Loose, who'd been with the year before, and there's a couple of people I picked, and then I emailed a couple of agents that I said, are any of your people that I know, any of your people involved in this mess, can you tell them I'll take your shows? But I just kind of, it was blindly booked by me, but it was all through the Freestival people. So with a few bits of input as well, and there was Mr. Susie came here because he was the only person that, it does show the state of the comedy world. He was the only person that sort of reacted against what had happened and left his venue in protest of, obviously we don't want to go into the boring politics of it now, but he made a protest move, and he thought loads of people might follow him, and they didn't. He just kind of, come on everyone, turned around, and there was no one behind him. So I gave him a room in here just because I've admired that. And so that it kind of cobbled together, and I think the people that were here have kind of enjoyed the fact that it was semi-professional, I suppose, because it was definitely Just The Tonic light, but no one would have known because they were used to, like, what I would say the debacle of the Free Fringe. Now, I could imagine that Cowgate Head was a bloody nightmare this year. And I think, were you pleased you weren't involved in it in the end?
I feel like I got a massive upgrade. I think I've told you this before, because I went down to Cowgate Head to fly the first couple of days because I thought if people are looking for my show, I want to tell them I'm not here anymore. And there were a few people hanging around and like looking for it and stuff. And I went to see a few shows there, like a few days in. and it was not the best venue, should we say, in the world. And I got chatting to someone actually, I think it was about 4 or 5 days in, who said, "Oh, how much did you have to pay? I bet it was really expensive to be at Just The Tonic." And I was like, "Well, it was more expensive than Freestival, as it would be." But I said, "I do have an usher, and I do have lighting, and I do have like a really nice room that has been kitted out in the way that I would have wanted if I was with, like a proper thing." And I went down and obviously looked at those shows, and I felt like I'm really glad I wasn't in those rooms, because I don't feel like it would have worked as well. I mean, I had to come up with a marketing plan very quickly that changed what I was doing to mean that people would know where I'm going and, the new room and stuff. But everyone loves a bit of a challenge, don't they, at the Fringe?
Yeah, it sort of worked itself out, didn't it? But I think probably the issue I've got now is because it's worked quite well, but I probably won't be able to afford to do it again next year, because I'm not getting the room after the Fringe program. Oh. So I've got to work out how I can do it as a model. If I can afford to do the same thing, it might be more expensive. I don't know. So it's the end of this one. I haven't even started thinking about that now. But I've got the rooms, but I just need to work out how I'm going to. I kind of enjoyed having this bit, but it's doing this and maintaining this sort of the monetary scale on the other bit as well. I can't. It's difficult to balance the whole thing out over across the whole thing. Really, I haven't even thought about it, to be honest. I want to go away for a month and worry about that end of October, I think, planning for next year. But it's been good though, isn't it?
Yeah. And your staff have been amazing. I know this now just sounds like a cheap plug for Just The Tonic, but genuinely I mean, to be fair to me, I've always, so the last 2 years I've done, I did one with Laughing Horse and then I did one with Freestival last year. And both years, the thing that added to the loneliness of it was that you didn't have ushers and you didn't have staff, and the bar staff were always busy, and they felt detached from the show. Whereas here, they feel like they have an investment in the brand rather than just working because they work there anyway, kind of thing. Whereas most of the people you've got here don't live or work in Edinburgh; they've come in for the festival.
Yeah, they want to be part of it.
Yeah,
but we do have a strict no dickhead policy. So.
Oh, that's how you've done it. Right, everyone listening into this, can we have a no dickhead policy at all the other places as well? That'd probably make the Fringe a lot more fun, wouldn't it?
Well, you have to think, can I spend a month with this person? And that kind of helps in the booking of the venues as well. We get people applying for the thing, and you can kind of sense from the application form, and that seems really weird. And you go and see a show or you talk to them on the phone, and there are people that I've gone, Christ, they're going to be a nightmare. And they might have money to rent the room, but you just think, in my first dealings with them, it's been a bloody nightmare, and I can just see headaches ahead, and I don't want that for a month. So I might regret it when they're somewhere else and they're selling out, but you can tell very soon. Well, I've learned to tell. You don't always get it right, but some people are just awkward, let's say.
No, it's interesting. Every area of comedy says a similar thing. So I spoke to some PRs before coming up here, and all of them were like, if you're this for the podcast, not for my own thing, but if you're a dickhead, I just won't take you on because I need someone I can work with. Yeah. I spoke to some other promoters. They were like, seriously, if you're a dickhead, I'm just not going to book you. Yeah. I don't care how funny you are.
Yeah, why do you want to give your money to someone that you don't like? I don't want to encourage that behaviour.
Yeah, it's a very people-person business, I find, comedy. Yeah.
Well, there is one comedian that he turned up at my club and was really rude to my staff, and it was horrible, and then started slagging us off on Twitter. Slagging us off, we didn't do anything wrong. He just refused. He wouldn't go. He wouldn't headline because he thought he should get paid more than someone else. But actually, at the time, I was paying everybody the same because I didn't want that kind of. I want everyone to get the same, no matter what part they want. But he wanted more to headline, and we were going, well, look, someone's messed up at Jonglers. We're trying to help them out, let them have a double. Can you? And he then says, well, no, I reckon someone else can headline it, which wasn't a natural order for the show. And then he started slagging off the staff, and after I just won't book him. I don't want him in my venue because it was horrible, a horrible human being, and I don't want to encourage that kind of behaviour. Why would I give my money to someone like that when there's nice people? It might not be quite as funny, but I'd rather spend my time with them.
Yeah. That's really weird. I think I just don't know why you would. I mean, I suppose because the thing is, one of the big things that a lot of comedians now sort of have been saying to me is they don't want to pick on the previous act, even if it went badly. Like there's sort of this new wave of, like if something goes bad, you can sort of take a cheap shot at someone before, like the person before you, and that kind of gets you a cheap, easy laugh, and then they kind of trust you. But there's sort of this move to not do that. But I suppose,
to be honest, I didn't know anyone did that.
Really?
I would say I might have seen the odd compere do that, but that's more of allowing the audience to recognise that you recognise that as a comp, you can't kind of go, well, that was great, wasn't it? When it clearly stung, you have to kind of go, a bit shit or something like that, you know, just not getting a cheap shot, but just you're acknowledging what went on. And I don't think I can think of many people that go on afterwards and go, well, they were shit, weren't they? I don't think that's a move away from it. I just can't think of when I've seen that being done, unless it's a right low run gig when someone is actually trying to salvage, you know. So I'm arguing with you here.
No, that's fine. That's what this is about. Argue away.
Yeah. You're wrong.
That's going to be the soundbite for this.
Yeah. You're wrong. I'm right.
Never booking you.
Yes. Even though you can drive. That's how rubbish you are. You can drive and you're not being booked.
I'll book you as a driver.
Yeah. Okay.
You can drive my accent.
If you're willing to.
I'm all right. Driving is my least fun part of the whole thing. Like I like long drives, but generally speaking, I don't know. I always end up in the car with someone who either doesn't want to talk or wants to fall asleep on the way home, or just doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, just isn't into the socialising element of it. And as a result, I feel really awkward because they're essentially especially when you get in with someone you don't really know, a stranger you've picked up and put in your car, and then they just go to sleep. And that's an oddly trusting thing to do with someone that you don't know. You know, that's just picked you up.
They might find it just as awkward as you. Just want to pretend to be asleep to save the save the effort.
So what have people been telling you about my?
I don't know. I don't know about you, Simon.
The thing that scares me most about coming back to the Fringe is that keeps happening. The Freestival PBH thing isn't as unique of an event as I think people think it is. I spoke to some people from Freestival and they said, as they pointed out on the Chortle article, a verbal contract is just as binding in Scotland as an as a written contract, and as a result, a lot of free venues do not have written contracts with places, and as a result there's sort of they could turn around at any point basically and say, we've been offered a private function in that room, you can't use it.
Yep.
I thought you were going to have something to say on that, but no.
Well, it's just, you know, there is the people, basically the people that got the bars, all they're interested in is taking money. And they don't really care about, not all of them I'd say, but majority of them are just kind of, who can we get in to fill our bars up, and they've got no concern about the performers, I'd say, which is what happened in the Cowgate Head thing. There was a big potential money, there's a huge amount of money that can be made in that Cowgate Head, and so a lot of people were bidding for it. I don't know what happened with the Freestival, I don't know what the deal was going on, but I know people that were bidding on that spot, and it was a lot of money that it went for, because you've got to look at that big bar at the bottom opposite Underbelly. You know, all they do is put some hay bales in there and put a bar in there, and, you know, some musicians in there, and all those performers are being totally used to generate a load of bar take. So everyone that's in the Free Festival, no matter what Peter Buckley Hill says about, you know, fighting for the acts and stuff, they're all being used to fill people's tills. They don't really care about comedy. No, you can say what you want about the big four and things like that, but there's promoters and agents there that actually care about looking after the acts, what happens with the acts. It might cost them a bit of money, they might potentially lose thousands of pounds, but you're with people that care about your future and what you're doing. Whereas if you're in something where, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think there's the festival as it was, it always had, I believe, the best outcome for comedy involved. Whereas the spread of the Free Fringe everywhere, there's so much money being made on the bars that the people that are actually bringing people in are being used by the pubs. Does that make sense? Yeah. So essentially, pubs around Edinburgh who previously weren't making as much money because, you know, they'd be going to the big four and they've got their own bars there, have found ways of making money by having a show on that didn't cost them that much. In fact, it got them money because we were renting the room in it. Yeah. And then obviously those people leave and have a drink, and so as a result they're getting more punters in and making a spike in their money in August. And obviously the acts are the last people to get paid again. Yeah, well they are being... Yeah, they're being used as a way of bringing people into a pub. It's just, you know, it's what you do if you're running the venue. You know, if you go to a comedy club, that comedy club is using you as a comedian to get people into the room to sell some drinks. You know, so but in that you've got a promoter. Most times you've got an external promoter that loves comedy and is trying to get people in and cares about who they're booking and stuff like that. Whereas in the Free Fringe, I might be completely wrong here, but I've kind of thought about it quite a bit. And it just seems, especially what happened with that. The thing which messed up with you lot, there was a lot of power money people getting involved, And even though the Freestival people had booked all this stuff in, when it came down to it, it was handed over to people. It was run by people that actually didn't care about what happened to all those performers. There was no thought about what happened to those people that were already booked in. That could have been salvaged, could have been done nicely where, oh, gee, we've already got someone booked in here, let's make sure no one suffers. But it wasn't. It was done with a massive sledgehammer because the person that was making the money didn't actually care about what was going to generate the money that he was trying to make out of it. Do you see what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
It was a kind of, I don't give a shit about these performers, because I've got this venue and I don't happen to like Freestival people. I like this other person, or he's offering me a better deal, or he wants less. I don't know. I've got no idea what happened in there. But it could have been done a lot easier and cleaner without the spill out. But because in the end the performers weren't cared about, and so it's not just the person with the money that's doing that. It's the person that got in, and the Free Fringe thing could have been nicer about it. They could have just. If there wasn't as many rooms available, like he says, then he could have gone, well, we have to lose 20 shows or something, because you've programmed it. It's not going to work like that. But instead, he made a massive big fuss of it and stressed a load of people out. He's probably already paid for accommodation. They're all young fledgling comics. Can't really afford to have a mess up like this, and probably invested a lot of time and emotion into this. All of a sudden, they're smashed to pieces, and it must have been hideous to have gone through, because I was reading stuff on Facebook, all these Twitters I was getting, and when we opened up the rooms, thank you very much. I was like, well, it'll be all right, but it was a mess for a lot of people, and it didn't need to happen. And I think that's because there is so much potential money to be made from the bars that, I get a feeling that, I'm not going to go on anymore.
Okay. No, I think I know what you're saying, because when you say the money man, I assume you mean Peter Buckley, not
no.
The venue owner. Oh, the venue owner.
No, I mean there's someone that owns the building, and then who haven't done anything with it for years, and then there's someone that wanted to lease it off them to run the bars, to make all the money in the bars. But for that person I don't know who it is, I don't know what happened. For that person to make money, they don't know any performers, so they can use the Free Fringe to fill up their spaces. So performers are getting a chance to operate in the spaces, which is all fine and well. What I'm saying in this instance, the mess up, it could have been done differently anyway. I'm going around in circles and probably not make any sense. You might want to edit this all out.
I'll edit it down, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, but I hear what you're saying, because for me as a Cowgate Head refugee, as they're being known at the moment, I just feel that the way that it was handled, and the way that, don't get me wrong, there was a very short time frame for everyone to deal with everything. So it wasn't like, they had a few months. Say if it happened in January, I'm sure, there could have been more negotiations and more chat. But the fact that, for example, Peter Buckley was refusing to talk about it and refusing to have conversations, I think was the main reason why it was worse. But it probably came down to, because most of the Freestival people used to work with him, he just wanted his pound of flesh kind of vendetta in the situation. And I'm hoping that's going to put people off using him, because like you said, you don't really want to go with someone who doesn't care about the acts as an act.
Yeah, it's the politics of the situation is more important than the thing, and it's kind of a bit what happened with Stalin.
That was a jump. I hear what you're saying. For you also, you've run free shows before.
Yeah, I never made a big thing of it. I just kind of, they still pay rent. They still give me some rent. They do a bucket. Done it a few times over the years. I just never did a big thing about it. And I'm just not, like Bob Slayer's the greatest self-publicist there is, and he came up with that pay what you want thing. That was a good model. We used that this year, but I didn't ever want to get involved in that petty politics of all the Free Fringe stuff. And I'm not Free Fringe. I'm laughing all the time. This, I'm that. I find it tiresome. I'm self-employed because I don't like office politics, and I don't want to do it on a massive scale. I just want to kind of get on with people. Peter Buckley, the same thing happened to me. I was booking the Mash House a few years ago, and I got ousted by the Free Fringe. I did it half booked, but it was before the brochure deadline went in. I didn't make a big fuss of it. I didn't go to the press. I just kind of, that's what happens. I can't be bothered with the pettiness, and I just want to have a laugh. That's why I do it, really.
It feels like there's Free Fringe, which is consisting of love. I know he doesn't like it when you call Free Fringe to include other things, but that's hilarious. Why I do it.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah, why not? To be honest with you, the fact that it winds him up it means that I'm going to keep doing it. So the Free Fringe, it consists of Laughing Horse, PBH, what you call it, Freestival, and I can't remember. There's probably one more I've missed out. And then there's the big four, and there's like you and Bob Slayer in the middle of that, which I feel is like the best compromise between the two, who just sort of like, it feels like a lot of people have this preconception about the big four just being about money and being about like being quite an expensive option for people, and some people perceive it as the professional option for it, but also I feel like you get detached a bit from the fringe itself and what it always was. And then you've got the Free Fringe, which is like
chaos
essentially, and then you guys in the middle, which I'm totally going to be applying for either you or Bob next year, just because you guys seem like you give a shit about the acts, you have an affordable model that works for most acts, and I'm not going to break even this year. Like I'm open and very honest about the fact that I might make back a third of the money that I invested into it, but that wasn't the point for me. Do you know what I mean? It was about trying to build an audience. It was about trying to do the hour and get forward and move forward. But I think and I think if you are someone like, say, Joel Dommett, for example, who's doing really well apparently on the Free Fringe, he's getting in a full house every day and earning quite a lot of money from the Counting House. You can do that, and I suppose once you've built your audience, that's fine. But it's picking where you work and picking who you work best with that is, I think, the most important thing, rather than just trying to find a room. Would that be fair to say?
No, I agree with that. And one of the things that I've always thought about the free fringe model is people come up to Edinburgh, they'll spend £1,000 on accommodation, £500 on flyers, they'll spend however much getting up here, whatever they do on props, but then I don't want to spend any money on the venue that I'm doing the show that I've come up here to do. I don't want to. Why should I give the venue any money? Why should the venue have any money off of me? And you go, well, you're putting a show on. Surely you want a decent venue. What the fuck are you thinking? I was always baffled by that. But the model of getting people in with the bucket thing works. But 2 years, was it last year we had Let Loose on, and they gave us the rent for our room in the Mash House, so they paid the same as everybody else. They wanted to do it as a free show, and I watched them. They were the 50 capacity room. They were turning people away within about 4 or 5 days. They were turning people away, and it was really frustrating to watch because you'd have all these people turn up. And they would have bought a ticket for £5 or £6 or something, which isn't a lot, And if those girls had got that £5 or £6 every single day that they were selling out, they'd have gone away and made a lot of money, But because they'd done the free fringe model, all these people went in, and I stood at the end. And all these people came out, and half the people didn't put money in the bucket. And those people did like £2 or £3, So they were turning away people that might have put some money in the bucket and letting in people that weren't putting any money in buckets. They were going, oh, that's a nice free show, and just wandering off. And you go, well, it's not all about making money, but those girls put so much effort and time into a brilliant show. They should be rewarded for it, and they should be able to afford to come back the next year and do it again. And so that was kind of really why I thought that pay what you want model is good, because I do it different to Bob, where I still go, look, you've got to pay rent for room because I usher it, I kit it out, there's curtains up, there's a box office, you can buy tickets here, you don't have to go. I went to see a show, the Hive thing with Bob's the other day, we had to go up to the Ed Fringe office and get it. I can't be bothered, so I didn't go because I couldn't get a ticket there. So I have to pay for all these things, and I pay rent on the venues. It's not, I don't get them for free. Because they are normally functioning rent venues, and if I don't rent them, someone else will. So I've got to pay for rent. So it isn't. I can't run it like a totally free fringe thing. But people go. So people are sort of paying a bit of rent, and then they're selling tickets, and they're getting. It's worked really well this year. We've had a lot of good shows that have done with the pay what you want model. It has worked brilliantly, and I've got a lot of people saying they're going to come use us next year because of the success that we've had in doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think Bob's model is, as it probably is getting known, he likes that probably. It's perfect, because, like you said, it'd be great if people could reserve a ticket. So I've had a few people come back from last year, this year, and I'm sure if they, were doing that again next year, they'd probably want to buy a ticket so they could guarantee a seat. Whereas, I mean, I know what you mean, but I had this argument with someone the other day. I had an argument with a performer who will remain nameless, and they were saying they're really anti the free model just because they need to earn money. And I said, we all need to earn money, but at my stage in my career, I feel like I need people to take a punt on me because there's so much other free content out there. And I'm a massive advocate of free content. I think you need to build an audience before and prove you're good enough to be paid for before you do that. And they were like, no, you know, I'm funny, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, yeah, you might think you're funny, but how many other people think that will pay for it?
Well, I totally agree with you. Before the free fringe model became big, when I was running the Cafe Royal years ago, how I used to promote and what I was different to the big four. I mean, we were just this tiny little, silly little venue, really. But I'd get shows in, and I'd go and comp tickets, get people in, and get word of mouth going. And I think probably the first year I was running the venue, Will Hodgson was doing a big value with us, and he was doing a solo show down in the Hollywood Tavern, as it was. And he came in sort of in tears to the big value thing on the second of the day. So no one's coming to watch my show. And I went, well, if you want, I'll come down and have a look at it. And if I like it, I'll help you promote it. And if I don't, I'll just tell you what I think's wrong with it. And so I went in to watch it. It was amazing. And so I said, I'll help you promote it. And all I did was go and comp it. Just gave away tickets and got these people in to see this weird, slightly cross-dressing punk kind of weirdo that he was. An amazing show. And we just built up this audience for him. You know, over the time I had to go every day. And did it as a favour, really. And he ended up winning the best newcomer. But that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't comped. If we hadn't comped the show to get an audience, and there's no way when the Foster's judges came in, or Perrier, whatever they were at the time, they come in. If there wasn't an audience there, then it would have been rubbish. So you have to build. You have to have an audience in there. You know that's a performer. If you've only got 2 or 3 people in, it's shit. And the problem I always had with the big four people is their restriction on comps. And when I had Pappy's Fun Club on when they got nominated in '97, I think it was. Yeah, it was '97. And we were in this big tent that we had, and I just went, look, lads, just go out and give away all your tickets for the first couple of nights. Just give it away and get people in to see you, because you're so funny, those 150 people will tell other people. We did that for a couple of days. So right now, go and 2 for 1 it. There'll be word of mouth out there, and they 2 for 1'd it. And after about a week, or I don't know what exact dates were, but they were just selling out. And that was because they were allowed to have an audience in to see it. And that was pre-free fringe model, but that was me doing basically what I've always done, is let people just comp their shows, get bums on seats. If your show's good, people tell people. If your show's shit, no one's gonna come. So but if you have 50 people in, they're going to tell another 50. If you have 20 people in, they'll tell other people. And you have to be able to get people in. And that's the thing that Free Fringe addressed, is people being willing to experiment with their time, because you know, if you're looking for the Fringe program, it's so bewildering. And you're going, well, that's £4, and there's someone famous there for £12. I know that famous person's going to be funny. Why would I invest £4 in this? I don't know what it is. So you can understand people going to see the Sarah Millicans or whatever. But with the free one, you're going, well, I'm just losing an hour of your life. I've lost a couple of them at Free Fringe shows.
Mentioning no names.
Never getting that back. I can't remember the bloke's name, but it's awful. And anyway, so that's something the Free Fringe addressed. It meant people could go and take experiments, and you as a unknown could get people in. And if they like you, they'll reward you with a bit of cash, or they won't, because they're going to see other free stuff and just blagging their way around. But the problem is as I've said with the let loose thing, when people are being a bit tight, and as there's more and more free shows, people are going to be putting less and less in, I think, because there's, you know, the whole ticket price goes down and stuff. I don't know. So that's what I think the pay what you want model is a good model, because it, like, you know, like Spencer Jones was pay what you want, selling out, you can't get tickets. So there's no, you know. We have a lot of shows here selling out, you know, doing the pay what you want, and you know. Anyway,
so something I played around with this year that was okay successful wise, but I'm going to push it next year, is I made a group on Facebook, which I think I called the Edinburgh Fringe Comp/free ticket group. And the idea was going to be that if you were a performer who needed to get an audience in, you could share a link or put up a code and say, today only, I'm doing comps.
Right. Did it work?
For a few people tried it, and it got a few people in. But the problem was I waited until the second day of the Fringe to announce it. And I'm hoping next year, I'm trying to talk to the Fringe office about basically them promoting it, so that we can make a group of people that people join and say, you know, because obviously, even if you're like a really established performer, you might not have enough of a base of people, or you might not have people you want to, or even the people you're going out to, you know, they might already bought a ticket because they know what you're doing, and you want to give a comp to some people who you don't know.
What I would do, rather than approaching the Fringe, because I think they might find it difficult, because they have to be seen to be fair to everybody. Yeah. So you might have to. The best thing to do is to go through the Fringe guide and approach everybody that you know, and get a volume of people doing it through you know that it's working for. And after a year or two, people will know about it and they'll come to you to do it. I think, I can't speak for the Fringe, but I think it's something they might go. They might not be able to promote something that's that's going to be so biased to one sort of thing. They have to be fair, and that's the best way to be. Really, there is no favouritism in the Fringe, and it's a nice thing. There's nothing worse than being part of a festival and in seeing certain things given preference over other things by the people organising the festival. It's like there's a couple of theatres I've booked into when I used to do tours, and you get there and all their in-house productions were so much heavily more promoted, and you go, what about my show? Well, this is ours. Anyway, so I think it's a good idea, but you should have told people maybe in May.
Yeah, I literally had the idea 3 days before I came to Edinburgh, and then I thought, I won't bother, it's not worth doing. And then a few, I wouldn't say big name friends, but a few friends that are doing a lot, like they're a lot further down the line than I am, said, I've got, like they're posting stuff on Facebook, I've got comps, anyone want to come? And obviously we've all got shows, so we couldn't go. Yeah. So I thought, I've got friends who could go, but that, you know what I mean, how am I going to get them to that show? So I just made a group and invited everyone who was sharing the comp swing to it, and said, if you've got comps, if you've got free tickets, if you've got, a reviewer coming in, you can just write, I've got a reviewer coming in, here are the free tickets, here's a free ticket link, here's my 2-for-1 link, whatever it is. And that way you can, it's like the half price ticket.
That is a good idea, and you should do it, but just, obviously give us some lead up time. Yeah. But that is a good idea. That would help a lot of people. And you would have, because there's so many people that come to the festival that would want to go to loads of shows, and they would benefit from that. And the mass public wouldn't be aware of it. That there's this little underground. I know. I think is it the Frog and Bucket? There's some. Yeah. There's some comedy clubs have got this little list of we need to get. I think the Stand do it. We need to get some bums on seats, and they've got this list of people that they email out to help fill up a room. I should do that. Really, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. You should. Well done, Simon.
Thank you. That's changed from no.
You're wrong.
Well, I'll email you a link when, or I'll invite you to it on Facebook. And if you want to invite all your acts next year, that'd be perfect. Because I'd love it to expand. Just because when I get to a stage where I want to do, a paid show, I would love to have the facility there to be there. But also, a lot of my friends, I don't want them to not have audiences when they have reviewers in. But also, I know that. For me, for example, when I had a review in, I got an email from them saying, we'll be in on this date. I said, guys, it's free. You can come on down. And that's a great push that you can say to people. However, if you're like, hey, guys, it's £5. Can you come down? There's a reviewer coming. Yeah. Most people know the reviewer isn't paying. Most people know that the reviewer is there to help their career. And if you don't know them, you're taking a punt to help their career, to help the reviewer who, you know what I mean? It's a whole thing.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
You're with me, bro. Really, so I read about a thing in 2006 where I think it was Johnny Vegas, Jimmy Carr, I can't remember the others, but there was like some really big names now. They're bigger names now, but they were big then as well. Yeah. Did a fundraising gig to keep Just The Tonic going. Yeah. And in that time, Johnny Vegas had the soundbite that kept getting played that said that Just The Tonic is the best club in the country. Yeah,
he didn't do that fundraiser gig though. It was Ricky Gervais.
Was it Ricky Gervais?
Yeah, it's quite a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, what do you think has made your club last as long as it has done?
I can't do anything else.
No.
and Joe there. Joe's the reason it's kept alive.
Hello, Joe.
Isn't it, Joe?
Is that just conveniently walking
yeah.
You sure want it?
Yeah.
Do you want to get involved? Yeah.
What are you doing?
No, don't worry about it. It's just waffle. It's all lies.
I'd love it if someone had listened this far in and went, yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
Well, when
do you want to explain who Joe is to anyone?
Joe works for us. He's worked for us for years. He's brilliant. Yeah.
Keep it vague.
Yeah. Come to the club and meet Joe. Ask for Joe.
Okay.
He's a robot. Little in-office joke. What makes it so... The reason that Johnny said that, to be honest, was when, like I said, I started it and I loved it, and I would always encourage new talent and things. My club was a Sunday night in an old style pub, a really big long room, and I would book comedians because I liked them, because I thought it was funny. I never did a gig for a gig thing. So when I was trying to get gigs, I made a mistake. About 2 or 3 years, for one period I did a gig for a gig thing, but I was quite strong that I wouldn't do it for a long time. So you only ever got to see decent comedians, and I kind of bodged it together. I didn't know what I was doing when I started off. I kind of just made it up as I went along. But when there was a period when I had Vegas comparing and Ross Noble comparing and Kitson comparing, and I've looked through some of my old brochures, and it's amazing. At the time they were good, but if you look back at it with hindsight, it's like an amazing run of Sunday night gigs. It was quite unbelievable, and people in Nottingham still talk about how great that was as a gig. And I think what Johnny meant was I put my trust in the talent. I wasn't a clock watcher. If I thought someone was funny, I'd let them go. And like I said, with Eric Lampert, well, Johnny Vegas was the same. I booked him because I'd seen him, and then when I saw him again, I thought he's too good I put him as a headliner. And when he headlined it, I booked him on a bank holiday Sunday, so it was full up because there was nothing to do on the Monday, so it was heaving. Then I booked him again after that, and every time he filled up my venue, and I paid him well for it. I didn't just rip him off. I kind of, right, thanks for that, mate. He filled up my room, and here's a load of money. And I gave him free rein to do what he wanted, and we had some amazing nights. I gave Ross Noble free rein to do what he wanted, so he could turn up, he could fuck about for as long as he wanted. And loads of people, I just go, well, do what you want. And I never watched the clock. I never told them what they do. I never, if someone didn't do very well, I never had a go at them. I was happy to be there, having a really good laugh. And I'd be out flying every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night until like 9:30 every night. Basically, I was living it, and I was totally into it. And we would go back up to my house. We would have a lock in sometimes. There was times we were like still in the venue at 7 a.m, just wandering out the place, or we'd come back to my house and it'd last all night. It was brilliant. And I think the whole package of the club at the time there was like, it was just quite anarchic, really. But the whole industry's changed now, and you can't book those acts anymore, because as soon as anyone gets a sniff of success in comedy now, the agents go, television, Mock the Week, get on that, do a tour. And there's no room left for the independent club promoters. Just there used to be a little period where you'd have like a year or two when someone was getting success on television, and you could still book them. Brilliant, because they'd fill your room up, and you get a bit of a payback time. You'd have a busy night, and then go back to your regular nights. But that's all been taken away because they all go to theatres. All those places that never supported comedy when it was starting up, they'll go, "I'll take my show to a theatre." You go, fuck's sake, I'll take it there. I'll take it. So there's all these independent promoters are kind of. It's harder and harder to keep it alive now, because the people that would make the club busy are being taken to theatres. Even if you went to a comedy club and did a tour and took 70% of the door, which you would do if you was in a theatre, they're still not doing it to comedy clubs. They're taking them to theatres, and that little night might help independent promoters stay afloat. Anyway, what I'm saying is my club was anarchic, and it was mental, and it was good fun. And when no one was booking Johnny Vegas, I was booking him and giving him free rein to do whatever he wanted. And that's why, to him, maybe he couldn't get in the Comedy Store, and he couldn't get into a lot of places because no one could really work out what he was doing. And I would just go to him, go on, do what you want. I'd give him a couple of props, and he would rip the piss out of me, the club, everything, and we'd have amazing nights. Absolutely amazing nights. He was brilliant in his day. That's why he said it, I think, because I was into comedy, I was into comedians. It wasn't all about making money, even though I did make money to keep alive.
But I mean, your club's been around since '94, so 21 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, even though it was anarchic in its day, I mean, I'm assuming now. I mean, what advice would you give to promoters now who maybe want to have a club that
stay off my patch?
Don't do one in Nottingham or Leicester.
No, what was that? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Just what advice would you give to? Because there's a lot of comedians I know who have started clubs and have had to close them down because they're not either into promoting, or they don't think they're very good at promoting, or they just don't know what they're doing. And so it'd be great to know from someone who's done it for 21.
If you want to be a stand-up, be a stand-up. Don't promote a club. I'm not saying that trying to protect myself. I'm just saying, because what will happen is you'll get not everyone does, but most people will get you'll either end up with your head being in promoting mode, or you'll be seen as a promoter, and also you'll find it hard to get gigs because other promoters will want to do gig for a gig, and that was a problem I had. I couldn't get in gigs because I go, kind of your club. I go, no, but I'm booking Sean Locke and this and that and that. You're booking no one I've ever heard of. I can't give you a gig for a gig because you're not good enough for my club. I'll give you a gig when you're good enough. Well, you can't have a gig with me. And you go, fuck's sake, it was so hard. Anyway, the best thing to do, if you want to be a stand-up and let other people promote stuff. But if you want to promote a gig, then just don't assume that people are going to know it's on. Don't put one poster up, assuming they know it's going to go on. Think of everywhere that you can go to promote, to tell people. And don't let the fact that you might like someone's personality necessarily mean you're going to book them just because they butter you up or something like that. I mean, don't sort of just book your mates, or book people that are going to make it a good, solid night, and don't rip off the audience, really. And if you can, try and get a little bit from the bar to help. Because if you're doing a Sunday night or a Thursday night or a night when it's going to be dead, then sort of maybe negotiate after, if you can make it work for a bit, that you can get a quid back or something for every head that comes in the room if you can, because that little bit of money will help. Because if the room's going to be empty anyway, they might as well give you a little bit towards what you're doing. But just do it. We'll do it with passion, but don't kind of. And if just because you've been busy for 2 or 3 weeks when you're out there flying, don't think the whole town knows about it, because they soon forget. And I've been doing stuff. I was doing stuff. Well, I've been just having Nottingham for 21 years now. But I know after 10 or 15 years, there'll be people I'd bump into. Oh, you still doing that comedy thing? Yeah, I keep meaning to go. All right, yeah. It's only been here 15 years. You've missed all these amazing people. Oh, you had them? Yeah, I kept telling you, but you didn't know they were at the time. Well, I'd love to see them. Yeah, well, you have to go to the concert hall now because they're famous. You idiots. And yeah, so yeah, you have to. If you're going to promote something, you have to work really hard at it and use every means of marketing you can.
Do you think, I mean, because you mentioned that when someone starts to get a bit famous or starts to get a bit of TV exposure, the agents pick them up and then take them on a tour around like art centres or theatres. Is that because, do you think the climate for audiences has changed, which means that they want to go and see it there? Or do you think, because obviously there's been a shift in comedians and the way that clubs are run and the things people put on. In particular, like for example, Junglers has a certain market that I think has maybe put off certain groups of people that were going to comedy clubs. They see it now as a stag and hen or a work do thing. So maybe the reason, I mean, do you think it's the reason they're going to art centres is to try and find a new place they can do comedy? Or do you think it's literally because maybe they have more capacity for more people in it, it just works out more commercially viable?
Well, there is the capacity issue, but people, the people in Nottingham, there's people that will take shows to theatres and sell less tickets than they would do if they come to my. Oh, theatres will have a different audience as well. Theatres got their own. They got their own mailing list, their own brochures, and there is a different audience there. But it's probably a mixture. It's probably a mixture of all of that. What you just said, really. But there is definitely a thing where it's a kind of almost like a. Some people just want to be seen in theatres rather than doing comedy clubs. There is a kind of bit of
elitist.
Yeah, it's a little bit of snobbery. I'd rather be, I don't do clubs anymore. I want to do art. We want to be doing art. I get that. So we want to do arts theatres, and you go, why? They haven't supported you at all. Come back to the club. I've got an email list of all your fans on. What? We're going to the theatre. We're doing a theatre this year. And you go, God, all right. But it's not everyone. But I'm just saying because it's such a big industry now. There's so much money to be made that, and I think London's been affected in a way that the provinces were affected a long time before. Whereas, it became hard as a book rising people probably about 10 or 15 years ago. I'd say in where I am, because they started sort of doing tours. We're saving it for a tour. And we always. You might get a warm up, but can't do any press because we're saving it for the tour. We're saving those. He can't come and do some gigs with you because he's going on tour in 6 months' time. You're going, well, those people aren't going to not go to see a full show. In fact, there'll be loads of people who come to the gig, see him do 20 minutes that we can promote your tour show to. It's like a little advert. No, we're saving it for the tour. You go, oh God. And I think that started happening in London more now, where people are doing tour warm ups in theatres, and so you've got Soho Theatre doing warm-ups, or or I don't know if it's. I'm not saying that. I'm just making it up. But I know that the dynamic in London has changed a bit. Where, and also, I suppose the public. There's so much comedy on television. The public are aware of who's who now, and can go. I actually want to see that person. I want to see that person, and you don't need to sort of go to the local comedy club and take a punt on whoever's on, because you can find the person that you saw on YouTube 2 days ago or saw on television. You can actually find them somewhere. So maybe that's what it is.
It could also be that because like you said, there's so much on TV now, and all of that's in theatres. Like I very rarely see a comedian performing stand up in a club on TV.
Yeah, if they get to a certain level, there are still people that are doing. I'm just thinking of.
I can't think of a single TV show that. I mean, Stuart Lee did it a little bit with his TV show where he was like, I want it to feel like a backroom club type thing, but it still felt.
I know. Once he's got his own series, they all go off to the theatres, and it's very hard to book a bit. But some of them, there are some that will have a loyalty to a club and will come and do your club for a bit. But in the end, pressures kind of mean and capacities, I suppose, mean they go off. Why would Stuart Lee come to Nottingham and do me a favour and do my 400 capacity room when he can do the Theatre Royal, do 1,000 tickets in that night? It gets to a point when you go, I can understand you. You've risen above us. So do a warm up with me, please. But you get to a point when they're going to go off. You can't hold it onto it forever. But it's kind of like the level of the guest presenters on Mock the Week. The guest acts, and sometimes they think it's bigger than they are. And they go off and do, so I can't book you anymore because I'm on. Am I sounding bitter? I don't know. No, I just think it has become. it's become a different thing. Where as soon as you're on television, you're in a different little realm. I think. I hope you just edit all this out because I'm not making any sense. I can't even work out what I think now.
Well, no, I get what you mean. I mean, I was chatting to. I think I can talk about this because I've invited him on to talk about this, so I'm pretty sure he'll be all right with it. I was talking to Nick Helm the other day, and he was saying that he did Uncle, that sitcom. And he said it was awful because people came to his shows expecting Uncle,
Oh, right.
and he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So although the TV had given him a lot of exposure and brought him to a new audience, it was the worst audience.
Well, Ardlo Hanlon had the same as that.
Who?
Ardlo Hanlon.
Okay.
Because he'd go on and is it Dougal he was in Father Ted? And that's not his stand-ups. It's not at all. So he suddenly had a different audience coming to see his show. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's why he pitched for. I think it's why he pitched for that.
Live thing.
Heavy entertainment or whatever, because that means people can see that that's what he does. I mean, it didn't translate. I liked it, but I felt like his live stuff's better. But it's a whole other thing where when you see someone on TV, you presume that that's what they do. But I think a lot of the audiences forget that it's a heavily edited, commodified version of a thing to sell adverts in the breaks, rather than what you get in a comedy club where you get, an actual act.
Yep.
I thought you were going to have something to say on that. You look like you were.
I'm just so tired.
Oh, sorry.
I know what you're saying. I do agree with it. I prefer live stand-up. I don't watch anything on television. I hate watching people on television I know in panel shows. I just switch it off. I can't stand watching people that I know often using routines that are in stand-up, dropping them into conversations. I just can't stand the whole panel show thing. I hate it. I just think it's a real waste of the talent. I think it's when I started off, I always had this idea that it would be amazing to get a massive pool of UK stand-up comedians and have a similar thing to, not in the same vein as, but how Carry On films used to be, where everyone would muck in and make films based around their personalities of a lot of characters doing stuff, not like Carry On, but in the way that all those things used to work together. But I can't see it ever happening because it's too all divided by agents and different careers and stuff like that. And all I see instead is loads of people doing panel shows.
I'm interested. You don't like panel shows? You don't like?
I'm not saying I don't watch them. It's not something I watch, but I think it's because it's like a busman's holiday for me. I just don't watch them. I was with my son actually, and I really like Russell Howard live. I'd only watch Russell Howard's Good News a couple of times because I suppose I don't really watch much television really. But I was with my son, who's told me that day, Russell Howard's my favourite comedian, so I sat and watched Russell, and he was brilliant. He's really good at what he does. I love what Russell. It's a really nice programme. But I just realised then I don't watch any of this. I don't watch any television in terms. So for me to say I don't like panel shows, I'm just not interested in them really. I'm just I just see loads of people sort of doing one-upmanship and topping each other, and I don't know. I don't see those people there are great stand-ups, and I don't see them doing great stand-up on these panel shows. But it's an advert for themselves. They are just adverts for themselves who then go off and do tour, I suppose.
So if someone contacts you for a gig, is it adventorial?
Advantageous?
Let's do it again. Is it advantageous, or that's going to be fun to edit? Is it advantageous for them to mention they've done TV, or is that going to work against them because you think?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not a dickhead.
Yeah.
I won't go. You've done television. I'm not booking you. No, it doesn't separate. I'm just saying.
Send a clip of live work rather than TV work.
I'm more likely to go on. Can you tell me who thinks you're funny?
So in an email, say this promoter.
Who promote and or what comedians, and there are certain comedians I know won't tell me that someone's good unless they are good. You kind of learn from recommendations. He just told me because he's his mate. He wasn't very good, but there's a lot of things going in who I book and who I don't. I can't say it's this and that. It's a very sort of ever-changing kind of thing, really. I don't really know. Yeah, but saying to me you've been on a television show, it's not going to put me off. I'm just saying that as a fan of comedy, I love comedy, but I've got surprising little knowledge of what goes on television because I never think it really ever does justice to the people that I know as live performers. And like when Phil Kay did his live show, I hated it. Ginger and the Geek sketch, I didn't like that on there, and and I sit and watch people that I think are great comedians, like I said, on a panel show, and I don't think it. But it's a way for them to earn some money, and I can understand it. I'm not critical of it, but I choose not to watch them really.
Pre TV comedy, how were acts creating their own audience then, or building a following? Like, were they just doing your clubs and then like you were giving them the contact details of people that were signing up, like you said, to your mailing list, or like how would you find that's happening?
Well, say like Ross Noble in Nottingham, or Daniel Kitson's probably the best example, and Johnny Vegas. They come to do a gig, they would do so well that all then people would say, I saw someone last night, blah 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 blah. I was on again soon, and they would bring their friends, and they would bring their friends, and it just builds up. It's just an organic, natural, cream rising to the top because they're good, and that's how it happened. And then those people would eventually either come up here and win an award, or they would get a bit on television. But there was a natural growth of an audience for people. So Daniel Kitson's got a natural growth of audience, and he can just do an email out and sell out everything that he ever does without any effort. Ross Noble's probably had that for a few years, but it's just a natural audience, just like a band would get. It's no different.
So that's cool. Well, who are your favourite comedians?
For live performance and general brilliance, Johnny Vegas in his prime time, 97 to 2000, I'd say. For scripted, I've thought about this quite a few. For scripted stand-up, and for just pure scripted stand-up, I'd say Sean Locke. But then again, I don't know who's about at the minute. These are people from my sort of memory, but there's probably people just as good. But these are the people that stand out from my. I suppose I'm an old hand, and Phil Caine, when he was his prime, it was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. He was someone that He was always what I would love to have been. When he was amazing, he was how I'd love to be. He could just go on and just make stuff up and be an absolute idiot. And he was so intelligent, so quick. So there's probably others as well, but that's my short shrift answer of Sean Locke. I worked with Sean, I think in '96 or '97. I was flying a show. I was working for Avalon up here, and I just come up as a young man who wanted to get a bit more involved. And I went to see a preview of his show in London, and I loved it. When I got up here, I just flogged. He's told me since then that I filled his room because I would just be so passionate about it. I just fly in. You got to see this. I talk people into going to this show. And he's full up nearly every day. And he's in his first year, and he's the Pleasance upstairs with a 100 capacity room. And on the last night, he taped it, and he says on that tape that all he can hear laughing is me, who I'd seen it 28 times, laughing my head off, and Phil Caine sort of sat next to me, both just creasing up laughing more than anybody else. That's how funny I found him at the time. He had this amazing sketch. I always remember how stupid it was, and it was based on the Chicken Tonight advert. I feel like Chicken Tonight, and he hammed it up so much. It was about how he'd gone for he wanted to be an actor. He thought he'd be a great actor. He went for a job. He went for the job interview to do this Chicken Tonight thing. He was gutted because he didn't get it. He said, but when I saw that bloke, God, he loves chicken.
Yeah.
And then he acted the whole thing out, and it was such a long sketch. He's trimmed it down by the end of the run, which to me was disappointing because when I saw it raw, it was proper, just crying, laughing. It was amazing. He's such a good stand-up. He's such a brilliant stand-up, so clever. Anyway.
And if you had one bit of, I'm going to split this question, but if you had one bit of advice for a performer looking at getting into Just The Tonic clubs and like progressing through, what would that be? And if you had one bit of advice for someone who was looking at setting up their own clubs, what would that be?
To get into Just The Tonic, get Joe to see you at the Big Value comedy auditions and get some. Yeah, that's because basically we go for that. I don't want to judge someone by putting them on a Saturday night club in front of what could be a hostile audience. It's quite a big room. It's not a natural environment to do a 5 minutes. It's a bit too intimidating, and it's best to do it in a different thing, and you can get seen in a better light, really. And Joe's good at doing that. And for starting up a club, make sure there's enough people in your town to go. Don't book crap, basically. Make sure you don't just put one good actor on and loads of crap on. Make sure that if someone's not good, you only let them do 5 minutes so that you get the best out of them. Don't book someone that could be like a 5 minute, get them to do 15 minutes because you save a bit of money. Just make sure the audience go away thinking that was a good night, because then they'll come back. If they go away going, it was shit until that last bloke was on, or if you're comparing it yourself, you're not good enough, don't do it so that the audience want to come back, so you haven't got to go and keep getting a new audience. not many people are going to come back every week or every month. Not many people are, but they might come back in 2 months or 3 weeks, something like that. But don't put them off. So make sure that what you put on is a good show, or a good show for value for money. Value for money. Because the best way to sell a show is word of mouth. It doesn't matter how many posters you put up. If everybody in the town's been to it and it's shit, they're not going to come again. So that's what I'd say. You book me.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming on. Cheers. That was Darrell. I had a lot of fun talking to him. I have a special thank you to tell him publicly on here, but I've also told him it privately in person. Thank you so much for working with Freestival and for giving me a home for my show this year. And I just can't thank you enough. I had a lot of fun at Just The Tonic this year, and I think they're definitely worth looking into for next year. And if you are looking at doing the festival, he's definitely worth contacting. If you think you have an hour show and you think it is worth him looking into, he's definitely worth talking to. Like we discussed in there are different levels and different platforms for different people depending on what you're doing and where you're at level-wise. So obviously don't try and jump the gun too soon if you are doing your first year in Edinburgh up there. But who am I to say? It's your career. Very quickly, ways you can support the podcast again. Please do rate the podcast in iTunes. It really helps out the show. It means a lot to me, and I read all of them. So please do that. That'd be amazing. We've got 34 reviews. I'd love to get it over 40. Just review it. You can also donate on the website via PayPal. This show doesn't have any sponsorship, and I want to keep it that way. We keep the adverts out of it so that I can just give you the content that I think you know and love. So if you would like to keep it that way and you'd like to keep it ad-free, please consider donating. It'd be amazing. Just put a monetary value on this. If you think this episode is worth £1, send me £1. If you think it's worth a £5, give me a £5. Whatever you think these are worth, that'd be amazing. If you want to do it on an ongoing basis, that'd be even more helpful. You can do it on patreon.com. The website is patreon.com/Ask the Industry Podcast. It's essentially a platform where you can donate, or it's a place to donate a certain amount per episode. You don't pay when I don't put up an episode. It's not like a monthly charge. You only pay when I put up an episode. I put up 3 a month. It will cost you a minimum of $1 to do this. It will cost you £2.40 in total for the month, and I pay the conversion charge, so it's nothing on you. So yeah, please do that. It gives me a budget for each show. It really helps out, and it just keeps me motivated because it means that I know how many people are really invested in the show and how many people really want to listen to the next episode, because I'm imagining that patrons are definitely listening to each episode at minimum. So yeah, please do that. If you can spare $1 an episode. $1's not that much. Let's do this. $1 would be great. And also, if you enjoyed it and you think someone else would enjoy this, please share it. Sharing is caring, and it would really be great if we could work as a unit to spread the love and spread the word about this podcast. So if you have time and you have a moment, just share it. If you know me somewhere on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, tag me in it so I can thank you for sharing it. That'd be amazing. I thank everyone for doing that, so please do tag me. I keep an eye out for stuff as well, but it's easier if you tag me and stuff. And yeah. Also, join the Facebook group. The Facebook group is on Facebook, obviously, and it is called Ask the Industry Podcast. It's a private group simply to keep spammers out. Just apply to join, and I accept everyone after I've done a little bit of a background check to make sure you're not I don't think you're a spam account or whatever. But yeah, it's worth joining because I post in there when I'm going to have new guests, and I talk about, when you... So 2 days before every guest comes on, I put a post out and say, hey, what questions would you like to ask this guest? And I put those to the guests as well. If you're a patron, your questions get prioritised because you are backing the pod, but everyone's question get asked. If they don't answer, I sometimes edit them out, or I sometimes leave them in if I think it was interesting that they didn't have an answer for it. Depends on how it goes. So yeah, that's about all for now. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for donating. Thank you very much for sharing. See you next time. Bye.